Okay.
Chaos begins.
Let's begin. Alrighty then. So, all right then. So that this is another welcome to Team Bonus Action, y'all. That this is our one of two streams that is going to be happening today. That my name is Spencer Young, aka Ninja Spence, and then that we had decided this year to start a series of interviews for TBA members and stuff. Some of us are basically old, while some are new, like who we have today with us today. Will you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Neysa, and welcome to my tiny house.
Alrighty then. All right, and so then, as I have always had, just basically had like just told just everyone up in these interviews, Neysa is that it's just going to take about 45 to 60 minutes and stuff, and then that we could, and then we got questions, but that that the first question is that what had got you interested in that the role playing hobby and community, and also please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, about me first. I am 31 going on 3 centuries. I live in a tiny house in a patch of pine woods. It's 12 foot long, it's 8 foot wide, and I sleep in a hammock. I have a large dog somewhere. He may show up eventually, but he's out running around right now. He's a pit bull pointer mix, and he is adorable. His name is Jorah. I have a pony face, a horse who's outside as well. Yeah, I crochet, I cosplay, I read, and I write. That's pretty much all I do with my life. My initial introduction to tabletop role-playing was through the little bit moments on The Big Bang Theory, actually. When I started watching that pretty regularly, it kept cropping up, and I always wanted to see what they were going to do next. There was one time they were supposed to be rescuing Santa Claus he'd been kidnapped, but then they ended up actually kicking him in his chestnuts, which was great. There were Nicolas Cage voiced trees giving directions. It was wonderful stuff. I really liked how fun, how creative it seemed, and how open-ended and versatile it was. It was really cool.
Alrighty then that's a really, really cool answer and stuff. Okay then, so the second question is that if you have created a homebrew world, then could you briefly describe your world?
Yeah, anybody who's been watching my the Tears of Kairos game will know that Israel is my homebrew world. It's more of an island continent than a world of its own. It exists on the same plane as like Theros in particular, but essentially I don't have the entire world built out yet. It's mostly just the continent of Israel. But it is an island continent, and it has a significant mountain range, quite jagged and rugged. Along the eastern edge, there's a dense forest and a thick swamp that kind of fills the north and central areas, and then a prairie that turns to arid uplands along the western and southern edges. Summers are marked by vicious storms that barrel down out of the north. Winters are actually mostly mild, if a little foggy. And springs and autumns are either blistering or temperate, but they're actually notably free of traumatic weather events like tornadoes or anything like that. So it's a pretty cool little place, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I mean, then that is a pretty cool, interesting place. I know then that, for just my own homebrew world, it is a island continent itself, but I think it's as big as the United States, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, But anyway, then what is your role in team bonus action, or else that rather like what would you like your future role to be in the team bonus action?
Well, I initially came on as cast to play with you guys, play in your Revenge of Stefan Carcass, and then in Into the Woods. I like playing and being a game master, being a dungeon master. I do help a little bit with like schedule management. It's mostly I'm the double checker at this point, but I'd really like to just continue being more involved with the actual production of games, continuing to be a face on the screen, and making sure that we have content going out.
Right, right. Then that's a very good answer. And then that the follow-up question to that, with you being just a fresh face to the team, being a relatively new member to Team Bonus Action, how does it feel to be part of a potentially larger tabletop RPG group? And what do you wish to get out of being part of Team Bonus Action, and how would you help the group grow?
Well, how it feels is actually it's very, very pleasant. That there's this ready-made, dedicated group of friends, and then friends of friends, in a niche, a community that I've always wanted to be a part of. It really does feel kind of like coming home. It's basically like I already knew what to expect when I walked the door for that first game, which was really a unique but very good experience. What I'd like to get out of being a part of this, being a part of Team Bonus Action, is just to be able to continue developing myself as a TTRPG persona, becoming a better player, a better game master with every session, every stream that goes by. I've never really been that big on like Twitter or Twitch, but I'm trying to, like, that's the thing that I've been kind of working on the last couple of weeks, is reevaluating how I can actually, if I can even do that kind of thing, to kind of reevaluate my online presences, and maybe in the future do more to actually visibly promote and cross promote our group to get that viewership coming in. There's a couple people that I would probably like to see join our cast, or at least guest spot maybe in the future, but right now I'm trying to establish myself before I approach that side of things.
Right. And then that's understandable. I mean, then that, that to kind of like take away from that conversation a bit, whenever then that we were up at the shop, and then that I was just, just like, well, then that, that let's see that if that we can join that this established group. And then that luckily that we did because then that y'all were still early on at the shop's version of Tears of Kairos, if that I am not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, you and Denny joined in like our second session. I just barely got them out of the first trees on the road, got them to like the campfire right before the first shadow fight. And so when you two were like, hey, can we go play? I'm like, sure. And basically just threw y'all in right in the middle of that first fight, which actually ended up working out really well long term for you guys as actually progressive like backstory stuff that y'all shipwrecked that night. And it was like, help kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Then that's all good and all good. So how would you describe your game mastering style?
So I am very much more story oriented, and I'd say relationship oriented as far as like the NPCs and the inter-party stuff goes. I'm that soft DM type of person. I'm not there to put a deadly challenge in front of the players every single time. It's more reactive on my part. Whatever the players do, whatever they have their characters do, reflects in the world, and that's what fuels the plot. And so as far as actually managing the game and managing the table, I'm there for the story, and I'm there to provide opportunities for the players through their characters to develop that story, to make memories and experience something that they wouldn't otherwise experience.
Yeah, then that that I can definitely see that as being just like a player for you for almost a year now. And then I know like that as far as the backstory of Triss goes, it is just like that you really, that I still remember that one night you caught me off guard with that. Then I must have wasn't been paying attention, and then that I know that like other TBA members are just like, you are always key on details. I missed that one key detail, then I was like, you are flirting with your brother. I'm like, wait, what?
So we should clarify this at the not on stream game and off stream game that Spence has been playing under me for since it would have been June or July of 21. But anyway, his character had joined up with the established group shortly in through their adventure, and over time, Spence had given me bits and pieces of Triss's backstory, little Easter eggs to maybe throw in and stuff. And so he dropped a hint early on that Triss maybe would actually have a younger brother, that the family that essentially tried to get rid of her may have actually still had other kids later on down the line. And their last name, her birth name, was Goldswallow. And so I created an NPC, essentially the knight errant type of character who ended up at the same tavern that they were at after they'd been kind of running around doing stuff for literally days. And he comes in, and on his shield was a like he was covered head to toe in like this white enamel plate with like gold trimmings, and his shield was emblazoned with like a golden bird. And I left it at that. And nobody caught it. So the next morning, Triss comes downstairs and actually hears one of the knight's like retainers actually say, yes, Mr. Goldswallow, or Sir Goldswallow. And she like turns around and goes right back upstairs like panic, which was fabulous.
Yeah, then I'm pretty sure then that's one of the top 10 moments of just the shop campaign. And then at that, for me as a player, being your DM, that was just like, someone got me. Someone had actually pulled the rug from off my feet. Then it's like, oh crap. But that was a very nice one. Very nice one. So anyway, then the next question is that you had mentioned earlier that you have a homebrew world. So have you dabbled into creating your own races, classes, subclasses, etc.?
Races, yes. Classes and subclasses, not so much. Again, those who have been watching the Tears of Kairos on stream will know that my native Israelan populace are always noticeable by they have heterochromia. That can be one eye is completely different from the other eye, or it can be just like flecks of color in only one eye. That's a major component. And they also have these like really sharp cheekbones that are almost a ridge across their face. Additionally, some of the native Israelan bloodlines are humanoids with wings. So some of them have feathers, and some of them are more bat-like or dragon-like wings with like the leather veins. The shop group hasn't met them yet, but there are also some Centaurin bloodlines in Israel. 3 different variants, actually. There are some that are horse-bodied, and some that are cat-bodied, and some that are actually lizard-bodied. And to variant even off of that, sometimes they're born with only two lower limbs, not all four. And so we end up with satyr kind of variants in some cases, which Spence knows that from the shop game, not the stream game. They just barely made it to the like Centaurin stronghold at the shop. As far as classes and subclasses, I haven't really done much with that yet. I have another player at a different game at our local shop who is playing I went and found somebody's already come up with what the Path of Fundamental Chaos Barbarian might look like, based off of Campaign 3 with Taliesin Jaffe's Ashton Greymore character. And so I have a player who's playing a gnome Path of Chaos Fundamental Chaos Barbarian, and it's looking really good so far, but I haven't touched it. I basically just went and found that homebrew, looked it over, I'm like, I'm good with it. I have another player in that same game who wants to play an Illrigger, which is another like not canon but pretty heavily play tested class of other kind. And the one thing that I've done for most of the games is I modify familiars for spellcasters. I want them to be more like halfway between a familiar and a companion. It's a little more fun for me playing a spellcaster if I'm not having to constantly worry that my familiar is going to get ganked right in the first round of combat. And so I pass that along to my players where I kind of I homebrew or I modify their familiars. And the familiar will actually level up a bit as the player levels up and get a few more things. And sometimes they're plot related, sometimes they're not. Another one of my players at the shop is playing a Yuan-Ti Pact of the Great Old One warlock. And so I modified a flying, like a feathered serpent familiar for him that will be leveling up as he levels up. So that's gonna be fun.
Then that I just know for just like I can kind of see that influence with just like Zonya, and then that that as just a player / DM that I do appreciate that, because that I think then that that is just a very creative way to basically like if that you have a spellcaster that is essentially a glass cannon, that you are basically essentially letting them basically will this familiar into existence one way or else another, pretty much. Then that's a solid idea.
Yeah, like I feel like the way familiars are written, rules as written in D&D, isn't really like it's not accurate to how familiars function for actual like practicing Wicca pagan type people. I know a few who have familiars and they're not wimpy by any stretch of the imagination. So it just it's never really sat right with me. So I bump them a little bit, but it's not enough that they're game changing. It's just one more extra thing, which if you're playing especially like a wizard type of spellcaster where you're already heavily focused on controlling vast amounts of things, you're doing a lot of like managing of various resources, having that extra option is as much of a challenge as it is a benefit. So
all right, very nice, very nice. Alrighty then, so that the next question is, what are the inspirations for the games and content you create? And could you elaborate on your research process whenever you are creating a game?
So main sources of inspiration are from various books that I personally have read, but I also I identify a lot with Greek mythos, especially some of the older and less set in stone variants of the Greek mythos, things like the primordial entities and things like that. That was actually the heaviest basis for when I was developing the Pantheon of Israel, was actually a lot of the original or precursor types of like pre-Mycenaean Greek versions of the deities. Kairos could easily be attributed to an Erebos type of character, a primordial darkness. Paina herself is very, she's flighty, but she's focused. She's kind of an Iris or like a Hebe type of character who is youthful but still has these heavy responsibilities. Gynos is obviously meant to refer to any of the more, if there's even a mellow Greek god, it would be considered like Hades, who's just about dealing with his own stuff and just calling it good. Whereas Zoena herself is obviously a Gaia equivalency. She is focused but also unstable. She makes poor choices and things happen. Thuelos isn't exactly a Poseidon archetype, but he kind of is. He's almost a Poseidon mixed with like an Onoroi or like a Hypnos type of character, a dream entity, because of his connection with nightmares and things like that. So a lot of it, even if I don't take it tit for tat and piece for piece, a lot of it kind of filters over whether I want it to or not. And so going from that into researching, I've read a lot of the analytical perspectives of myth. I've done a lot of going back to the original source material, Iliad, Odyssey, which, though they are pre-Mycenaean, are still heavily modern in their interpretation. But even still, there's references that we get in those that we don't get anywhere else. Homer is the king of the king of the lyric for a reason. A really helpful site for me has been theoi.com. It basically is just a searchable, interlinkable catalog and anthology of every Greek anything there is, including like the black wares and the pottery and the symbolisms and stories that are told on ceramic. It has databases upon databases of stuff. And it's all interlinked and hyperlinked, and it's easily searchable and categorized. So Theoi is really good. When I'm looking for stuff like monsters or weapons, of course I go the official Wizard of the Coast published stuff first, but then I will go and look for already made homebrew stuff if I'm not finding what I need. The places like D&D 5e Wikidot are good. Also just a quick Google search and I go to the images tab, and that usually pulls stuff up and I can go down the rabbit hole from there. So
very nice, very nice. And I am definitely going to have to check out that Theoi website to make sure then that they got anything about that the Japanese or else just like English influence, and then that will definitely help me out as well.
Theoi is almost entirely just Greek.
Okay.
There's a few places. I'll have to send you a DM because I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's a few things. I think it's learnreligions.org is a good starting point for a few things. I've looked up a few things there.
Okay, then that we would just have to we would just have to connect like later on today about that and such.
Yeah.
So anyway, then that this is going to be a bit of a long question, so just kind of like bear with me. With the growing popularity that Dungeons and Dragons have generated in mainstream and viewed as quote unquote cool now, not to discount the critical success of those professional D&D web shows that have paved the way for smaller groups in the tabletop RPG community, how do you feel that these spikes in popularity have either helped or harmed the hobby?
So I think it's both, that they have helped and harmed. Helped because now there's this general threshold of awareness for what TTRPGs, for what D&D is, as a thing in and of itself. I remember really early on when I was trying to find people who played so I could actually play, and again, this was like 10 years ago. If I said, do you play D&D? People be like, what do you mean multiple personality disorders? Because they thought I was referring to dissociative identity disorder, not Dungeons and Dragons. And so now you say D&D and people are going to mostly across the board know that you're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Even if they don't know a lot of the other smaller TTRPGs like Monster of the Week or Call of Cthulhu, stuff like that, they're going to know kind of the genre of what you're talking about. But the harm is when straight up rookies, people who have only ever seen something like Critical Role or Dimension 20 or something like that, they find people who want to play and they show up to the table expecting this Hollywood level show game. That Matt Mercer effect, we don't joke about that. It's not to be underestimated, but it's not just Matt himself as the DM. It's the big budget stage, the table that's got your trays built in, the custom 3D maps, the perfectly painted miniatures. And a lot of people, even if they're not feeling entitled to it, they still kind of on some level expect that. And they may be willing to kind of, logically, analytically put that aside and have fun with what's actually possible. But sometimes I've heard, thankfully I haven't had one at my tables, but I've heard the horror stories. So it's just the expectations are really high is the harm, if there is a harm.
Yeah, I mean that that is a fair assessment with just that the growing popularity of just like the tabletop RPG community, and then that just as you say that sometimes that the rookies come in and be like, oh, that you're not DMing like Matthew Mercer. Well, I am not Matthew Mercer. That I am me. You are you. That.
Yeah.
That. Okay, then next question. Okay, then. So, what are some long-term goals for Team Bonus Action that you would like to see accomplished?
Personally, and I haven't been involved in a lot of the planning things for way down the line, but personally, I'd like to see us have enough of a following that we could do something like a live show at a convention. Something like GeekCon in Shreveport or Mississippi Con in Jackson or New Orleans Fan Expo, having enough of a following that we could do a panel show there, actually do a play at the table with people in the audience. That seems like something that'd be really fun for me, and you've made it if you can do that kind of thing. So that's something that I'd like to see. But other than that, I know that we're currently focusing on trying to up our equipment, upgrade a few things and just make things a better baseline. And so, I'd just like to see us actually hit that where we're yes, we are good now. We don't need anything else. Fulfilling all the needs is something that I'd like to see us get there.
That's a fair assessment. Then that's the biggest dream of all small streamers, both big and small, basically to be able to go to a convention and then just talk about whatever you want to talk about that had got you to where you are. I think then that's a very, very good, goal to always try to work towards, even if it's just something as simple as that you just play Mario all the time or Final Fantasy or whatever. Alrighty then. So here is our fun question. Well, one of them. Name a favorite character of all time that you have played. That this character can be from any game you have been in.
So mine is going to be he's my first D&D character. The Tears of Kairos on stream, y'all have met him now. That is Erebos Iskios. He initially started in like the first actual game that I played, and this was one of those like another Discord group had been like, hey, we should get together and play. It's the pandemic, so let's play on vid chat. And it was great. It only lasted like 3 sessions. But originally, this character concept, he was Erebus Rain, not Erebos Iskios. I went back to the original OS spelling for him. And originally, I built him as a ranger, which I didn't know what I was doing. And I've like gone back to like that original sheet, and I'm like, I did not know what I was doing when I built this character. But the second iteration was I took him to just a blood hunter, did the name change, fixed stats, and took him to just straight blood hunter. And then I have since changed him to blood hunter multi-classed with bard. And so there's more to him that Spence knows from being at the shop, but it's not been revealed on stream, so we shouldn't say that and let it be a surprise. But he is actually 738 years old, and there are reasons for that, even though he is a tiefling. But yeah, he's my favorite. He will always be my tops. I love him and his kinky boots. He is bae. He is my adorable bae.
All right, then that we all just love that. We just all just love just Erebos. You know, both the stream version and also the non-stream version. That he's just a joy to be around, and then that he actually levels out the shop party, because then that we sometimes do act like a bunch of chickens with just our head cut off at times.
Yeah, at the shop, he's kind of become especially when they're sitting down and trying to figure out their next, like, where do we go from here? They can turn to him and be like, so since he's been around, like he's been in Zrael for like 200 years at this point. So like he's literally the DM set piece for, you have a question? Ask Erebos.
Right.
It's not railroading if it's in DMPC.
Right. It is just like I'm trying to get you to go. You know that, why can't y'all? But anyway, how do you feel yourself with the hobby within the next 5 years?
Well, now that I'm here, I'm never leaving. So I think that what I'd like to see happen just for me is having enough like closet cosplays ready to go so that I could actually like be cosplaying something each time I'm at the table, even if it's just a mysterious hood or a staff and a robe kind of thing. Just having enough stuff that I can just throw it on and be like, all right, atmosphere, we're good to go. That would be the kind of personal goal where I want to be. Like I'm never going to stop game mastering. I'm never going to stop playing. It's just a matter of kind of upping my own theatrical presence.
Oh yeah. Then I have been watching like Nerd Forge and stuff that I need to actually like start back watching them again. But then that basically that her tome book series, whenever that this person that she would create these tomes from scratch with like the bookbinding using coffee to stain the paper, and then that all of her props and stuff are very high fantasy inspired.
Yeah, the props game is definitely I'm slowly working up to that, and like the cosplay is just, I feel like it's an extent, like it kind of flows back and forth along the spectrum as like cosplay and props are like two sides of the same coin to me. So
I can agree with that. Alrighty then. Next question is that we all probably know the answer to this one, but what would be the dream collab that you would like to be a guest or be a part of, or that the more famous tabletop RPG?
So the way I read this question was, if we could have somebody at our table, who would it be? But obviously, I'd like to play with obviously Critical Role. But I'd also like to sit and play at a Bria Yengar's table. I really liked what she did with Exandria Unlimited. Like that was some excellent stuff for me. But honestly, if we could get somebody to sit at a table and play with us before campaign 3, I'd have said Talus and Jaffe, just because Talus and Jaffe is Talus and Jaffe. But now I'm like, Robbie Daymond would fit in really well with team bonus action. Like, just that energy would just be perfect.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, then. So then that basically, the next question is, if you can improve team bonus action in any method, then how would you make those changes?
So my thing is like I know with the the pandemic and everything, things are still kind of, we have to maintain some boundaries. But eventually, I think what would be really cool is if we could do as team bonus action, like host events or do like holiday types of stream or stuff like that. Like we of course do Extra Life, and that's never going to stop, and I love it. But I think something like having a Halloween game where we actually do things like in costume. Like I've seen people do like Mystery Incorporated, and actually dress up as Mystery Inc. Dewey would obviously be the perfect Scrappy Dappy Doo. And having like a Christmas type game or like a Saturnalia game for the pagans in the house. Having stuff like that we could actually do on stream, as well as when time and global events allow, we could maybe do stuff, actually host stuff at the local game shop or at the libraries or like even the high school kind of thing, where we actually go out and put out into the community what we want to see coming into the community, like teaching people how to DM, teaching or like just hosting like a small Adventures League kind of event. Just kind of doing more to kind of locally be able to get the name out there, not just have it be a virtual team bonus action, have it be public in person kind of thing.
Yeah, and those are also very, very good things. And in that, basically that we are basically at the end of our questions. So then that I am just going to just say like a thank you, just Neysa, that that it has been a blast for almost about, I believe that it has almost been I know that it has almost been a year that you are such, you are such an amazing addition to team bonus action, that that you are a great friend and just also a great dungeon master. So do you have anything that you want to promote or anything like that?
So I do have a TikTok. I haven't been that active lately, just a whole bunch of things going on, but I'm going to be kind of revamping everything in the next few weeks, I hope, to kind of reflect more of this TBA identity that I've absorbed. But all of that is Neysa Does Cosplay on TikTok and Instagram. Neysa is spelled Neysa, Does Cosplay. It's easy to find me. I do have a Twitch, and I might actually be starting to do some like just gaming, like just rando type stuff in the next few weeks as well. I play Hades the game. I'm working slowly through Witcher 3. I play Magic the Gathering Arena. There may also be some like, I'm gonna write here, just watch me type kind of things. It'll be a lot of random-ish, but that's also under Neysa Does Cosplay. Other than that, I don't really have an online life. So that's all I got.
Okay, and then that also, then just to follow up on the Twitch, I was just like looking up on Twitch, and then that they apparently have a section for like a read along. You can actually like read some of your own writings to Twitch viewers and stuff. I was like,
Well,
yes.
Well, not before I have it publishable though, because otherwise people will steal my stuff.
Right, exactly. But just some character backstories and stuff. That you can't be willing to share and stuff like that. But yeah, then you will be looking forward to that. So hopefully then I can probably get in on some of those collabs as well. But I do believe then that is all the time that we have right now for just that this seemingly seem like that Sundays are about to be our double streaming days for Team Bonus Action, because then I am going to have to go over to Miro's house, and then I am basically making the party dwarven meatballs for basically our Into That the Woods game that will be coming on at 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time.
It's so good.
Time zone to basically for just me, and just Neysa will also be will also be in that game as basically that the party mom and dad that is somewhat going through like a rehabilitation, but still have those feelings of divorce.
We need some counseling.
It's abundant. Our counselor, after like last session, he is the marriage counselor and preacher.
I think so.
But yeah, then that I just want to just say that you can find us out on our socials on Team Bonus Action for Facebook. Twitter is basically bonus I'm sorry, stuttering. It is just basically bonus at just underscore team, and then you can basically find me at just Ninja Spins 21 all across the internet. I just basically do some D&D art and stuff like that. So since that Knox isn't here, don't let you meet though. Thank you all for watching, and we will basically see you all in about a few hours. Y'all take care. Bye. That was great.
Oh,